There is an important element that I should have mentioned right at the start, and that is that we were to be quite secretive about being Jewish. It was a time just before Hitler occupied Czechoslovakia, all of Czechoslovakia. Our good fortune was that we lived in the Sudetenland, the part of Czechoslovakia that was occupied first, and therefore had no choice but to get out. Our relatives that lived in the center part of Czechoslovakia still believed that Hitler, after the Munich Pact, would only occupy the Sudetenland and not the rest of the country. And therefore they were even more reluctant to leave than my parents were. Some people went as far as getting certain documentations proving that they were not Jewish, so that they could leave the country. I don't really remember if they had to show them at any time, but I know that most of them had these certificates. Canada would only admit us as farmers, and since maybe the immigration officials felt that there are no Jewish farmers anyway, so how could we be Jewish? And we were able to enter the country, promising to stay 5 years on the land. I think I'll just try and make it as brief as possible now, to go back to my recollections, to the first days on the Wren farm, where life started to take on a little bit of normalcy. The ladies were busy preparing meals for all these people under the most primitive conditions. And I guess the men were trying to sort out the situation and just see how they could possibly make a living. I know my parents, or I should say my mother and the rest of the ladies, were anxious to get the young people enrolled in a school, mainly I guess to get us out of the way. This being November and a very cold and bitter November, we couldn't really be outdoors. Also, we weren't prepared for such extreme cold temperatures as we encountered in the year of 1938. And most of the young people, started school in a one-room schoolhouse very close by. I remember Karl Schleissner, being a butcher, bought meat which he cut up in the basement, and fortunately it was cold enough so that it didn't spoil and we didn't need any refrigeration. And for a long time to come, we all ate this old cow. The choice portions of the cow were left for the CPR officials, who occasionally would come and just see what we were actually doing. Starting a school and not knowing a word of English is quite an experience. And I remember very clearly that it was December, and the school was getting ready for a Christmas concert, and the teacher tried to teach us some Christmas carols, and one that I will never forget was Star of Wonder, Star of Night. I sang it, but of course had no idea what it meant. It wasn't until much, much later that I found out the meanings of that carol. Also, having 36 people live under one roof presented a great problem as far as water was concerned, and a kindly farmer allowed us to haul water from his barn with milk cans to the house on the Wren farm. It was quite a little ways, and we did have some kind of a cart. I put 4 or 5 old milk cans, which he also lent us, on this cart, and several of us would make the journey every day to the barn and fill it up with water, and then push it back to the Wren farm.